As a teacher, how do we teach? Um, Being in the academy, being an educator for the last 25 years, teaching is not easy. There are just so many considerations that you have to pay attention to. It is not only about you prepare a lesson, you organize the information, and you bring it on to um, to the students, to the learners. I mean, that's not at all. It is not that simplistic. It's a very, very complex process. They would like to share with you some fundamental things that I always pay attention to, I always consider every time I teach. And I would like to share with you the 7 areas that um, that I consider every time I teach. The first is I teach with my body. I teach with my brain sensory and memory. I am very much aware on how my brain sensory and memory works and how I take care of my body, how I pay attention to my body. Just for example, if I teach about health, I teach about taking care of the body. My fundamental tool in front of the children is my body, myself, my body itself. It's like, how can I teach about health if I don't have a healthy body? It's like, if I have a healthy body, that is an exact information that I give. It's a real information that I give that you want to take care of your body, look at my body. So aside from that, so I can always play with my body and how I deliver something to the children, how I use my face, how I use my hands, how I use my whole body to emphasize something. So body is very, very fundamental in terms of delivering something to the children. Okay. Sometimes we tend to overlook this thing, but our body is the most powerful teaching tool. So don't forget about that. And the second thing is the power of emotion. Whenever we teach, we make use of emotion. Sometimes we can play with our anger, we can play with joy, we can play with sadness. When we talk our story, when we tell our story, we talk about the emotion, we bring in some emotion. Just for example, when we talk about happiness, you can never talk about happiness without incorporating the way you tell the story with the aspect of happiness. You cannot tell a story of happiness with having your sad face or the sad voice. So when you talk about the happy story, so your voice should evoke some happiness also, so reflect some happiness also. So it is very important that we play this kind of emotions, especially when you are dealing with children and they're listening to your stories or whatever subject you teach. So you play with this kind of emotion, different kind of emotion in delivering your lesson. And the third is the social connection, the relationship. What is very important about teaching, especially when you're dealing with the learning, is about relationship. When you create an atmosphere of trust, respect, being able to connect really with the children, being able to understand what they are, be able to understand the situation, their context and everything. So it means that you have a real relationship with the children. At the end of the day, it is about your humanity and their humanity being meeting together in a classroom. And very often, learning happens when there is a trust that is very evident in the interaction between teachers and students. And it is happening whether it's outside or inside the class or outside the classroom. You're still the same person. Humanity exudes in the way you deal with children or with the students. And the fourth one is the cognition. As a teacher, it says whether we like it or not, we have to be a reflection of what a thinking should be. So we have to let it call this to bring in a lot of information. We should be reading and keep developing ourselves cognitively, because when we have a very, very organized mind, with clear mind, clear they call this, understanding where we are. Then it's the same thing that we get to deliver to the children in terms on how they were supposed to understand their own cognition. Because if we know exactly how our mind works, this is exactly the way we're going to deal with children in terms of their capacity, potential, and limitation, in terms of the cognitive processes. And the fifth one is the communication. There's just so many ways of communicating. Talking is not only communicating, body language is not only one way of communication. Being able to listen, being able to read, being able to write, being able to make understanding clearer between you and the students, being able to make use of music, being able to make use of drama, being able to make use of what else? Other creative things that you can think about. So there are just so many ways of communication. But if you're just using one form of communication, just for example, all throughout the year you have been only using one, only PowerPoint. Come on, it's like with the 21st century use of technology. I mean, all learners are exposed to the more sophisticated ways of learning. So might as well, keep on reinventing the way you communicate with the students. And the next one is the aspect of nature. As a teacher, we should be the model on how we take care of our own space. There are two things I would like to emphasize here: the use of space, the space inside the classroom, the space outside the classroom. So we have to create a more psychological way of using the space to evoke learning, to engage children in learning. Okay. On the other hand, also, it's not only about the space, I'm also talking about the natural environment. So we teachers should be aware and should uphold or should advocate the real care of nature, that we should take care of nature. We should not only teach about the environment, we should create an example, a real example, that I value the natural environment, I protect the natural environment, I find a way to nurture the natural environment, because this is part of us, this is part of my life. And the last one is I teach with my spirituality. I teach with my own beliefs. So you have to be aware that whether we like it or not as a teacher, we bring with us a certain beliefs. And sometimes unconsciously, we pass on certain beliefs to the children. And there might be some time that certain beliefs that we have might not fit in the way they believe in their life, or what we believe in ourselves might not really helpful at all with children. So when I teach, so I have to be aware that I bring a certain beliefs about myself, about life, certain worldview on how I see things, how I see people, and how I see, let's say, religion. And have just to make sure that whatever I have in me in terms of my beliefs will be impacting the children in a more positive way and will not bring confusion in the life of children. So when I teach, I don't just teach about the curriculum. I just don't teach the traditional, methodology or instructional, the mainstream pedagogy, but I bring my life for my learner. I bring who I am. So I have to look at myself holistically as a teacher. Not only the lesson plan, not only the curriculum, not only the classroom, but I bring my whole life. I am whole as a teacher, I'm a holistic teacher, and this is my tool for learning, and this is my tool